Sex at 10. I'm Rebecca Rosenblat, certified relationship and sexuality therapist and your host. Here to answer questions on all things intimate. Whether you're stuck in a relationship dilemma, have issues with your body, trust, trauma, addiction, or orientation, or just need a little help with turning up the heat in your bedroom, give us a shout at 1-800-968-7836 and let's chat. Everything's fair game. If you've thought about it, we can talk about it. Let's begin with the discussion on sexual freedom. And to help me with that, we're being joined by an expert in the area, sexologist Dr. Stephen DeWitt. Dr. DeWitt is a highly sought-after international speaker, coach, and consultant who specializes in helping people create freedom, pleasure, and fun in their sex lives. He's also the founder and creator of the Sexual Freedom System and the author of a new book by the same title, geared to helping people discover and create the sex life they've always wanted. Welcome to Sex at 10 and congratulations on your new book. You've been waiting for this.
Yeah, for a long time. It's great to be back.
How exciting. So I'm really glad you're here. You're going to be talking about it. Maybe you can begin the discussion by telling us all about your new book. What is it all about and how it's different from other how-to books that are out there?
Yeah, great question. So there was two things that I really looked at when I was writing this book, and some of the fundamental challenges that I saw people face in my private practice and when I'm speaking with audiences. Some of the same questions kept coming up again and again. So in writing this book, one of the fundamental tenets of the book is that the longest lasting, the most pleasurable, the most reliable sexual relationship is the one that you have with yourself.
Absolutely.
So where most of the books out there about like positions or like sex with other people and that world of it, it's
pleasing your partner.
Exactly. This is like, well, what can we do so you are actually empowered around it and you have that sense of knowledge and groundedness. So that's the first thing that is distinct about the book. The second thing that I looked at in the book is so many people are focused, I find, on positions, on challenges, on things that maybe aren't working as well in their relationship. And it's very easy, and you probably have this in your experience, to blame themselves or their partners. What I've really done in this book is taking it and finding out what's underneath. So what are the fundamental messages that people have received throughout their life, throughout those formative years around their sex and sexuality, that are still impacting them now? Because most people are what I call, sexually unconscious. They don't know where that all comes from. So rather than dealing with the surface and how it shows up in challenges in the relationship, let's go underneath and finding what drives those challenges for people.
And that's so critical because ultimately sexuality and sex, it can be the ultimate body language. And this is where everything plays out. Whatever's going on outside the bedroom, power issues, anger. There was even a study by Dr. Buss where they found that love and romance were, I think, number 45 on the reasons that people have sex out of 270 something reasons. And so obviously there's so much going on. So I'm really excited about the fact that you're going underneath and you're saying what's going on, because rarely is it about the cosmetics or the physiology of how we fit in. Of course those things can be important, but more often than not, I mean, good sex is 90% in here and 10% in here.
Exactly.
And as Sally Tisdale says, good sex is when our brain moves in the same direction as our bodies hope. So that's really exciting. And also like the fact that you said the most important sexual relationship, any relationship, the relationship we have with ourselves is the most important, and it is the longest standing. I mean, we start discovering stuff when we're babies. We don't even know it's sexual and we're discovering it. Awesome. Viewers, if you have any questions or comments regarding your own sexuality, please call us right away and get in on the discussion. FYI, all callers will have the name entered for a draw for Dr. DeWitt's book. Now, in your book, you talk about sexual freedom techniques and sexual freedom principles. What are they, and can you share some of the most important ones?
Yeah, and some of my favorite ones. So sexual freedom techniques are not, some people are like, well, is it going to be positions and I put my leg here, my tongue here, and that kind of stuff. That's not what sexual techniques are. Sexual techniques are things that people can use immediately in their lives, whether they have a partner or not, to develop their level of self-awareness, develop their level of connection. And the sexual freedom principles are just, again, when people ask me questions, and you get this on the show, obviously, it's listening for what's underneath the questions and what principles and thoughts and ideas can actually solve some of the challenges that show up here. So if I look at, and I marked something here as So one of the sexual freedom principles I have is take it back to grade 1. So
I like that.
People are like,
just dial it back.
Yeah. So in grade 1, we're taught to communicate, to share, to be kind, use your imagination, and have fun.
Have fun.
Right?
Share.
And exactly. Some of the basics. And as adults, as we grow up, there's so much, when it comes to sex, there's so much significance and scandal and stories and expectations and standards and norms that get in the way of our real authentic sexual expression.
Absolutely. Some of it is our collective culture.
Yeah.
And then there's, all the messages we learn through media, and we think we are supposed to be having sex in a certain way.
Yes.
And when you see on the silver screen, within a few seconds, clothes are flying, you get into these miraculous perfect positions.
Yeah.
Your eyes meet and you know the person's entire being, and a couple of minutes later everybody's happy, and they simultaneously coalesce into an orgasm. But that's not it.
No.
It's knowing each other, being known, being vulnerable, and whatever comes up when we're together. So tell us, what are some of these, can you give us some examples for both?
So that was principle. So if we look at technique, so one of the things that I have, this is fun, is stop talking to people who can't help you. So there's,
I like that.
There's, I always say we're great communicators with one person in our lives about sex, and that person is ourselves.
Absolutely.
And we're terrible usually communicating with other people about sex.
Even our partners. Yeah.
Exactly, because when we do, most people are talking to friends, right? They're talking to people who, or they're in their own head, and they're talking to people who actually can't help them. Friends are great people; they're going to support you, but they don't. 99% of the time have the expertise to actually help you break through whatever challenge is there. They're going to pull from their own experience, what they've read, what works for them. And as you know, it's different for every person. So, stop talking to people who can't help you.
And talk to people like us.
Sure. or talk to your partner.
Your partner, yes.
Right? Talk to the people who can help you. So get out of your head. Start talking to your partner, and start talking to people who really can support you and provide you with the support and the breakthroughs that you need.
And talking to the partner, it goes two ways. It's not just asking about what would you like, how do you feel connected to me and close to me, but it's also communicating it to them. And sometimes people are so performance-based that they just don't pay any attention to, are we connecting? Are we feeling close to each other? So I like this idea that you first and foremost, you find out, what do you want? And many people, I'm sure you've seen that in your practice, but certainly in mine, many times people say, my partner can't get me off, and I say, can you get yourself off? Oh, well, no. So how do you expect your partner to get you off? Because even from one time to the next, our bodies respond differently. And you cover all of that in there. Viewers, if you have any questions for a guest or myself, please don't hesitate to call in and get in on our discussion. Okay, so some of the other things that I wanted to ask you was, are there any other points that you wanted to make?
One thing one of the principles that I have is take the blinders off. So what's so common for people, and you touched on it earlier, is they're stuck in a relationship, or they want to spice things up. How do I keep things exciting over the long term in a relationship?
Because the brain habituates.
Exactly. So what I focus on in the book is I say people have blinders on when it comes to sex. So they have certain patterns and certain habits that they continue on this path, but they're like, but Stephen, but Rebecca, how do I spice it up? How do I add something new? But it has to stay in these guidelines. And most people aren't even aware that they have these blinders on. They see sex narrow view. So it's in the book, there's a 4-step process that I go through, which is the sexual freedom system, where people actually, first of all, get to see that they have blinders on, and then get to actually deconstruct the blinders. So what's now available and how they can connect and spice things up is all available. Because spicing things up when you're looking at sex and connecting this way for X number of years is very difficult. But when you can deconstruct that, take that away, and you see a buffet.
Whole world opens up to you.
Exactly.
And I'm glad you said buffet, because the thought that came to my mind is, if you're eating the same meal every single day for the rest of your life, and it doesn't feel exciting, and you say, well, can you spice it up so it feels better? It doesn't matter how many spices we add to it, you're still eating the same meal. You might have slight changes, but you're still eating the same meal. So this is like opening it up, and the entire universe is open to you, so you're not limited to that.
Exactly.
Viewers, we'd love to hear from you. Jump in on a discussion if you have any questions for us. do call in. Now, how can your book help those who are either struggling with on their own, or they're struggling because there are different proclivities, different tastes, maybe different orientation, and they're with a partner and they're not quite sure where to go with it, and they don't know how to negotiate those differences? Because it's one thing to communicate about, this is how I connect, this is what I'd like, what would you like? But when you're stuck because maybe there are orientation challenges, or you are into different proclivities or fetishes, or the amount, the intensity, how does your book talk to that? Or do you have any advice for people that are stuck there, just so that they can clean up that communication as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I work with people, and they'll present with issues and concerns similar to as you described. And the first thing and I go through in the book, is finding out where their commitment lies. If they're, first of all, committed to actually having, because some people are just like making their partner bad and wrong, and they just kind of get stuck in this cycle.
Yeah.
So finding out what their level of commitment is, and then really exploring with them and empowering them to actually have the courage to take new actions and new conversations. Absolutely. Because like you said, you get stuck in the same way and like, okay, this is what I like. But listen, we evolve sexually. Things are going to change. Maybe with our partner for a year, 6 months, 10 years, 50 years. We are going to change and evolve. And the thing that I find makes a difference is being able to have, a commitment that, hey, this is an important part of our life.
Absolutely.
Have the courage to actually talk about those difficult things. And in my book, I go through, there's different communication techniques that people can go through to actually have that available. But really the courage to be like, I'm going to take a risk. And I'm going to step out of my comfort zone, because I know operating within my comfort zone.
And I'll take the responsibility.
Exactly. And then what happens after that is, people, have that courage. Things develop, they start building confidence. And sexual confidence, again, confidence is, the #1 rated thing and that people find attractive.
That's sexy.
Exactly. And then
hold on to that thought, because we have a question.
Okay.
So we have a caller with us. Good evening. What is your question?
Hello?
Hi there. What is your question?
Erection without ejaculation.
Erection without ejaculation. So you'd still like orgasm, but not ejaculation?
No orgasm, I don't think.
No orgasm, because people can have orgasms without ejaculation. Do you want to take that away?
No, I'll let you handle this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of different exercises, Scott, that you can practice. I would strongly recommend that maybe you try to attend a Tantra workshop, because it's not just about movement, but it's also about, your breathing, and it's sort of knowing where you're centered. Now, one of the basic ways that you can start, a basic exercise, is if you pretend that your tailbone is like a screw and you're moving your pelvic zone around it. I guess they call it screwing for good reason. And so if you kind of get used to that, and you also practice some of your tantric breathing, I would strongly recommend, and you can bring yourself close. But also when you're on your own, what you can do is, let's say if 9 is where you're definitely going to explode, 8 is like the moment of inevitability, don't wait till 7. So when you're on your own pleasuring yourself, try to take yourself between 4 and 7. So bring your pleasure to 7, stop yourself, come back to 4, and go forward. And now sometimes people will also, they will stop and they'll put a little bit of pressure on the tip, or they will just kind of squeeze here, or they'll squeeze at the base. So what that does is it slows things down a little bit. But at the end of the day, if you practice on your own, and also you combine your breathing with your pelvic movement, lots and lots of people can say, and men say, that the only way they can really experience multiple orgasms is if they don't ejaculate. So they bring themselves close, their body feels all of that, but they don't ejaculate, so they're able to keep going. So I would give that a shot. But you know what? If you go to a tantric sex workshop, you will pick up some amazing tips that will help you kind of control that. There's also a really great book called The Multi-Orgasmic Man, and grab a copy of that, because that talks about orgasm without ejaculation, or you don't even have to go to the orgasm. Okay, good luck to you. Stick around, I have lots more questions for you. We'll be right back. Keep your calls coming, and let's discuss sex, relationships, romance, or what whatever else rocks your boat. And keep it locked on Rogers TV because we have lots more great stuff still ahead, including your calls. So pick up that phone and call so we can connect.